day of Cosmoteer. Today what we're doing is we're going to be announcing a new challenge for this new Saturday, coming on March 30th, 2024. And what this challenge is going to be is any ship that is a 1.1 million ship, and that 1.1 million ship or less, there's no really restrictions except for we want to make sure that it is not a kiting verse ship. And we're going to have this challenge, same thing like we did just yesterday. And so we want to have people build ships and see how they go. And as long as it's not a ship that can kite other ships, that's what we want people to build. Now we have a bunch of people that have submitted a bunch of little prototypes here and there. We're not going to look at them right this second, but we are going to look at that example of what I've worked on with Butter's ship. So Butter has submitted his ship, which is this one. And I reduced down the costs and changed it a bit. This is his most latest version. And I took his latest version that he gave and produced for us. And one of the things that you're looking at right here is he has his shield profile. I like his shield profile. I like his armor. I like his paint. And then he has these chain guns. But I was thinking, how can I improve and make this even better? And before I continue on here real quick, I'm going to make sure that this announcement gets pushed out to the people on our Discord channel so that they're aware of it. Perfect. Now that we move forward. So this is the ship that he has, and he was probably going to submit a version of it. As you can see, this ship has heavy offense, kind of just like an Alpha Strike. Does a ton of damage. Has a lot of nukes, but I want to say, can I make it better? Could I make it better in some form or fashion? So it's just kind of a change, and I've changed it, and this may be a ship that I do or do not submit. I've been collaborating back and forth with Butter in a sense, and he gave out these different other versions, which I've started to change and make different or make better, is my sense. So over here, this is just I think it's just another version. It was just changing a bunch of things. I ripped off all the chain guns. I put in disruptors instead, so you see there's a whole bunch of open space. Ramming ships are allowed. I think, hold on. Ramming ships are allowed as unexcited accident in the squad. No kites. And you can see right here, this ship, even though I removed the chain guns, it does better in a sense because there's no more of that explosions. So this is just the first version. I never actually showed this to Butter, but I was showing the difference. You see this right here? Chain guns don't explode, that's correct. But the ammo in the chain guns, or the ammo that's here, does and can explode. So when you take away the fact that the ammo can't explode anymore from the chain guns, it doesn't cause that chain reaction. So even though I removed the chain guns to make it cost less, excuse me, I had to cough there, it gives it a better, see how everything can explode? You have these little bombs. This part still exploded too, so I had to fix this and change this even more. What's up, Song School? Hello? So then I made another version. So instead of 3.1, we went to 3.2. In 3.2, I think I made some more changes by actually adding in more armor between the sections, adding in more walkways, removing some of the actual ammo here that can explode because it wasn't needed anymore, changed out some more priorities, and I also changed the head armor. So the head armor, what I mean by here is, you see right here, let's restart it one more time. I know that this ship's going to win because the head armor is a little bit better by shields. It can absolutely cause a chain reaction. It's just rare. Yeah, it can definitely cause a chain reaction with the chain guns and the ammo. It's more rare, but because of the ammo inside, they explode. So the things that I heavily changed here in this version is I took the head armor and I completely changed the head armor with the shields. But in order to do this, I had to remove some of the boosters in the back, which is kind of sad because the cost-wise, I didn't have any more actual crew to command points to flesh it out more. But original design right here by Butter, you can see his shield placement is nicely placed, but it doesn't protect as well because the layer stacking is not as well done. Where this one, the layer stacking is better, and I can reduce the crew needed for all these shields because of how the placement. See, he doesn't have as many walkways, where here I have more walkways. The shields are placed in a way, in a form, in a fashion, so that it still can all function. The other thing that's also different on this one is these disruptors are further back compared to the disruptors on the older version. And you can see the chain reaction happens far more. Now I took this version and I did change it one more time. I removed more armor, reduced weight on it again, and I went to a 3.3 version. This 3.3 version is the version that I then passed back to Butter. Butter then made another version of it. We'll showcase that one soon. With this 3.3 version, you can see right here, added even more armor for the middle section, which provides it a double layer. So even though you take out the front, you still have to take out the back. And I started changing more things. I started changing more crew and priority. You can see right here, the chain guns do rip apart and do a ton of damage, but the second layer of protection gives it just a little bit more. Mumbling again. Well, I'm sorry. I went to Seattle and I came back and I'm still sick. That was like 3 weeks ago. So how do we defend against ramming ships? You have to have a ship that can be able to withstand a ramming ship. Or you have a ramming ship for yourself too, Unexcited. That's a great question. So over here we can come over and we can take maybe a Pantera, or we take another ramming ship. I don't have any ramming ships example in this one right now. But what I am going to take here is I'm going to take Butter's newest ship. I'm just giving examples for people to get ideas of what they can build for this Saturday. You don't have to build this. You can build a ramming ship, as long as we just don't have far-range kiting ships, because we want them to be up close in some form or fashion. Now this ship cost more, is the ship that Butter gave when I gave back to him. You can see he changed the entire shield placement because it is better. He did 2 extra chain guns. Now the problem with these chain guns I'm going to show in this example, even though it costs more and it's got more crew, because he made a bigger version of it, the biggest issue that he has right here, or that I've seen this happen when these two ships face each other, is the chain reaction. Now this example is probably a bad example because this ship is now winning. Sometimes it just happens when you're doing live streams that the ship that you were expecting to actually win doesn't always win. You want close quarter battleships. Yeah, we want close quarter battleships. That's a better way to explain it. I'm excited. We're looking for close quarter battleships. So we'll start a swap. Excuse me. Try this again one more time. So what's supposed to happen here is this head armor is supposed to defend against this. It depends on where the nukes land. Because if the nukes land and take off the head armor first, but you see right here, when you take out a section right here with these chain guns, because the ammo, it's the ammo that explodes, not the chain gun that explodes, it's the ammo that's in them. And when you take out, it causes a huge chain reaction and or it causes fires. So you need actual more fire extinguishers a lot of times. It's not playing out the way that it normally do. Oh, it's only because I'm on version 3.3. That's why. I'm not using my latest version. Let's come over here. I'm showing an older version versus his latest one. So I'm over here and I wait many other versions, 3.3, 3.4, 3.5, 3.6. 3.6 is my most latest version. And the 3.6 version, I have heavily added more armor. I've added more priorities. I added even another section of armor here to separate the two cannons so they don't explode, so they don't cause a chain reaction as well. I moved the nukes down to stagger it out a little bit more so that the nukes hit at different intervals. So what happens here is these two nukes are going to hit, right? And then the third nuke right here will launch at a different interval, causing a little bit more damage depending on when they launch. At least that's how it's supposed to work. Doesn't always play out. I've always had this one on the left hand side, so that's obviously a difference too, because when you swap sides that causes a huge different reaction. I don't know why the AI does that. Sometimes the ship on the right does worse than the ship on the left. Sometimes the ship on the left does worse than the ship on the right. It just depends on how the AI just perceives and how everything lands on them. So maybe it would be good to say that you won't. Yeah. Sounds like, is this alright if you make ships that with a lot of thrust or backwards but still stays in firing range, but still can still back up and not be against you? That's correct, Song. So as long as the ships can fire on each other. But like how Unexcited's saying, that's still technically kiting. As long as you're not without range, you can still have backwards thrust, a distant amount of backwards thrust. But if the other ship can't ever reach the other ship, that would be considered kiting. So his bigger ship, you can see from the left side to the right side, all the different changes it's making. I was trying to make this ship even more. Each one of these layers of armor, like these right here, compared to the ship that he has a smooth layer. The smooth layer doesn't add enough protection if you're getting hit and sideswiped by nukes or other type of things. So this little bump right here actually adds a whole nother layer of protection. I've tested this many times against other ships, not just these two against each other. And see how it can survive a barrage of 3 nukes on one side, and this side's still actually alive. But that's what we're trying to do, because we're not trying to do any point defenses defend against the nukes. But we are trying to defend against the nukes. That's why that's why he adopted that new type of shield placement, because you can see the head armor's still there, even though all these nukes and all this everything's flying at it. And then you have a second layer of defense without losing both cannons once you lose one cannon. Now granted, this other ship, which it costs a lot more, is definitely doing a lot of damage. This ship wouldn't be actually a part in reaching the 1.1 million cost, but it's definitely, I'm liking what Butters came up with here, so it's really, really cool. It's a nice design. Now what I'm trying to do here, or at least what I'm trying to figure out here, is I'm going to try to remove more armor and try to increase the speed on this ship even more. So it flies at a decent speed so far, but it doesn't fly above 80. And so any ship that you're going to run in the in-game, or at least the older designs, you wanted to go 80 or above. Hey Turtle Tipper, welcome. So Turtle Tipper did send in some ships, but I do actually think I want to showcase this for Turtle Tipper, because he did send in a few of these ships for us to test against. So this cannon ship prototype that he put in the Discord channel for everybody to take a look at, to test, to see as an example. I like that he has this as a really cool tanking design. It's got great huge thrusts in the back, forward thrust. Versus a ship like this though, you're gonna see that these are probably a ship that at least Butter is going to submit something similar to it. Again, I'm collaborating with Butter on the ship to see if we can make it even better in some form or fashion. That's why I improved the head armor, took out the chain guns, because the chain guns are nice to have, but he already has a ton of damage, as you can see, and it just needed more tankability and then a way to strip off shields with the disruptors. And you can see it does a tons of damage. As I said, the score, it was a failed prototype is what he said. So that's very, very nice for you to give us that one. Another one is maybe something Turtle Tipper can expand on, is this one as well. I really like his Pantera. This one's way below the cost, so he still has a whole lot more that he could add to it, change it, if he decided to design a ship like this. But if you see, when you're facing it against another ship that's in the 1.1 million range, or something similar that may or may not show up in the actual challenge, I was just collaborating with Butter to see if we can make it even a better ship. You can see that it does just a ton of damage. But I really like Pantera's ship right here, well, Turtle Tipper's ship, because it truly is kind of like a turtle, huge turtle shell with tons and tons of armor. Cost-wise, a lot less, doesn't require any energy. But you can see over here with the layer stacking of the shields, this is what I like to test. It's tested against a whole bunch of different types of variable different ships. And you can see that the shields are holding up. They don't hold up fully in all circumstances. Sometimes it fully tanks it, sometimes it doesn't. And that's why you have a second layer of protection. This is for Butter, when Butter watches this. The second layer of protection is to hold up if you lose your frontal armor. And then once your second layer is still going, then you still have your nukes in the back, and then you still have your actual cannons. Now one of the downsides that I also see is after almost every battle, the nuke, or at least the nuke parts, there's not enough of them to keep firing enough barrages after you destroy one ship. So it's kind of just a PvP ship where there's nothing really else in there. There's no real storage for anything else. It's just engagement for pure battle. I don't know if you wanted me to show your actual ship that you maybe wanted to submit, Turtle Tipper, but I did look at that one too. That one's a pretty interesting design. I'll let you decide if we want to showcase that now or not. And then what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to come over here and I'm going to pull up some people's ships that I've actually put in to showcase that I haven't actually showed. Let's come over here. And the first one we have is, let's just change this. We are on new folder. We're going to do 3.24.2024. All right. So what we have here is we have a ship submitted by Ghosts. This is called a Hammerhead Phoenix MK1. Now this is not a part of the showcasing of what may happen this Saturday. The challenge is still 1.1 million challenge. I'll put it in the community chat too as well. But this ship right here looks like a railgun ship that Ghost submitted. I believe they calibrated a little bit with the people in our actual Discord channel. Turtle Tipper, nobody's really submitted a 1.1 million ship yet because we only just announced it yesterday. And then I'm making the official announcement here on YouTube. So you're the first person that actually submitted one of their ships. Not showcasing them yet until next week, Saturday, unless anybody wants me to interval or make suggestions on how that we can improve them. So these ships right here are just what's submitted in our Cosmoteer ship PNG only for sharing for people to can see. This is a railgun ship made by Ghost. I'm liking the speed. I like that he has these extra boosters in the back as well. I don't know how it's going to hold up against the new modulars for the new thrusters to go backwards and forward. You can confirm that you can still have thrust to back off a rammer but still stay in range. As long as you stay within range as for regular cannon type of fire range is on school. So if you have back thrust, as long as it's staying within range, I'm thinking it's still fine. But if you have any attack defaults where they pull them out of range and you're using long range weapons, that won't be what we're looking to accomplish in the 1.1 million challenge for this Saturday. This next coming Saturday is coming up. So I'm liking how these different point defenses he has. I'm really liking this design of armor in the front that Ghost has. It's pretty nice. For a railgun ship, it has just 2 railguns. And for its cost, it's not super expensive, but still kind of neat. I'm thinking the downsides only for this particular Ghost ship here. It's I think that he was saying that this ship performs poorly under AA combat. It tends to sway slightly in 9-up rail shots. It's got a spearhead coming across, hammerhead type. So it's kind of hammerhead type that can actually take some defense from the front. I don't like how there's no defenses on the side and no real defenses on the back. So it can easily get swarmed or swiped from the side or the back. But other than that, it really is painted nice. It looks cool. I like the design there, Ghosts. Thank you for sharing that one. Let's bring in another one of Ghost ships. Now this is a small, tiny one. I think this is a starter ship that he said. Economic starter ship, 6.5. Okay. Now this is a pretty interesting, neat little ship. It kind of looks like a little bug with little legs here pointing here and there. As far as our starter ship go, I actually like his design here, and just because I want to test it not versus itself, I'm going to actually take this starter ship, I'm going to come over here to my ships, we'll take another starter ship that I've made and see the difference between the two, and see how it plans out. Now this starter ship that I always have showcased a long time ago in my No Pause Cosmoteer Grand Admiral Engage, this starter ship, because of what it has, because it has a disruptor, a small laser, a heavy laser, and a shield, it has an advantage over this starter ship. This starter ship, as you can see, without the disruptor capability, it's going to eventually have problems because this one does have a disruptor. Now, a lot of ships normally don't start off with a disruptor. And you can see right here that I'm thinking I have power issues here where I should dedicate a little bit more to the actual disruptor. I'm thinking what I have here is crew priorities. The disruptor, heavy laser, this should actually be a 5. We'll just change that back to a 5. That's 8, 7. And if that's a 5, that's how it should function. Maybe. I don't know if that's really how it should function. Maybe the disruptor. I'm going to change that one more time. I guess I haven't messed with this ship in a long time. So instead I'm going to make the disruptor and the heavy laser, and then the minor laser will be less. Let's see how that holds up. That's better. I don't want the mini laser to have power. I don't care about this one so much, but the heavy laser and the disruptor. I think that's a better build for that one. I'm actually going to save that. Thank you for actually helping me improve one of my starter ships there, Ghosts, with your ship. So now that we saved it, we just do one more test on it real quick. This one has a disruptor. His ship though is economic, so his ship is actually less costing. I saw his was 61, or mine is 65 or 66. So mine is not based on the most lowest resources that you can start the game with, so that makes a big difference. But once we make that change, so the disruptor actually is firing and the heavy laser is always firing, that causes this to have some problems. But I'm guessing what I really should do is change the power even more, because you still want this light laser to fire too. Right now I only have the heavy laser and this one firing, which is not so good. So I'll think about that some more. But when facing each other in this type of battle, yeah, we're gonna have to change that some more. I'm wondering if I were to change this to little laser, change this to 6.2. If I were to do this, save that ship, override it. How does that handle now? Now that they all have the same power priority. Speed it up to ×2. Now it was also mentioned not to do ×8, because sometimes it does different types of damage. For damage placement. I just want to make sure that they're all still firing. The heavy laser just seems to take more power than those other two. I'll mess with it some more later on. Think about that some more. Alright, let's move on to another ship. We'll come over here, back into March, 324. Another ship that somebody submitted is, here's another one of ghost ships. I'm just going from top to bottom. This looks like a smaller railgun design. That's an interesting one. Facing each other, it looks like they can pierce through this amount of shields that he has. And then fire starting. I don't see any fire extinguishers to handle this fire. I'm gonna look at the other ship to see. Oh, this one also took damage too. Yeah, I don't see any fire extinguishers. So that's definitely a concern. This fire is going to eventually consume it and blow it up, because there are no fire extinguishers on the ship. So Ghost, when you ever take a look at this one, you may want to think about putting some fire extinguishers on this ship somewhere. Maybe even back here. At least one on each side. Because this is eventually going to go boom. Yeah. Yeah, see how it just went? It just exploded from the fire, not even from the damage. So I would definitely look into something like that when you look at that ship. Now, Butter submitted some of his ships as well. We've probably already seen a version of this one. He made a new version of it. This is, I think, a cheaper version, so under 600,000. It's got an interesting head, his original head. It's got the chain guns on it. Okay, we haven't seen this ship before. It's smaller. Now this pointed edge right here, maybe he likes it, maybe he doesn't. I don't really... Okay, I can see the use case scenario because it actually did hit away to the actual point. I like the wider heads. After a lot of experimental, these really pointy edges tend to catch under the ships when you're flying around with ship to ship. So when people are actually looking at these ships, they can definitely catch on all the different points. But I like how he has his boosters in the back. The booster placement in the back is kind of nice. It's an interesting set. For 600,000, I'm a little intrigued. Can the 600,000 with chain guns hold up against something like this? I don't think it's going to, because the chain guns are not going to be able to rip through this fast enough, I don't think. Maybe they will. And I like the disruptors in the back. So the disruptors that far back, they're still able to hit. He's got chain guns going at them. But I think this is an explosion point right here, if the cannons go through. And it's taking a little too long for the chain guns to get reloaded. But after they do reload, this is going to rip apart this side, and then he just lost that right there. It's interesting design. I know that the Zonsko ship right here is definitely cost more. Almost same crew, but a little bit more. But interesting idea. I like it. Alright, come over here to March 324. Let's pull in another one of his ships. This was another ship that I think Butter was designing for the actual challenge for yesterday. Now when you self-control it, because of the way it's designed, you see it has all these side busters it can orbit. Now they're talking about in the actual thing that this ship can actually, and actually he did the attack defaults for orbiting. So to do the orbiting, to take the attack defaults for another ship, we did explain this a long time ago. For those that are just watching or have never seen this before, you can take an orbital ship. So you see how the ships are spinning around. You can take an orbital ship and then take its attack defaults and paste it onto your ship for your own attack defaults, and or just rebuild the ship. So you take a ship, build a ship, pull in the attack defaults from the other ship, and then wipe that ship design out and then put your ship design in so that you already have the new attack defaults. And that's where you can have these ships right here that can literally orbit each other and fight. Now if Ghost actually submitted this ship for the challenge, I think it would have actually been very interesting, especially since it has so much side boost and it flies just very different and it attacks very different. Now trying to just watch the battle like this up close, it can definitely cause nausea or dizziness to some people, so that's why I'm also zooming out and in so that we don't have people getting all kind of sick at the watching this. But I like the design. I like the idea of being able to orbit. That's cool. Greetings from Germany. Struggling to make diagonal ships with projectile weapons. Any tips? I'm sorry if I pronounced your name, man. Burnt Bubbles? Sorry, Burnt Bubbles. For diagonal type of ships, I would say start off with a ship that you like. So if you like diagonal ships, the first ship that I started off was a diagonal ship, as I took an Imperial ship here. And my first suggestion is find a ship that you like. In this case, I took the Cirrus. And you just modify the Cirrus to the way that you like. That would be, or any ship that you like as a diagonal ship, that's in-game ship, and start modifying it and playing around with it and seeing how it works out for you. Learning how to do walkways and diagonal ships is probably one of the most important things to help your ships improve better. And then how you place everything and then how they battle against each other. So when you're fighting against diagonal ships, my best tip that I can give for you for diagonal ships is mess with some of the in-game ships and then expand out. And or you can use some of the player ships that we have. Join our Discord channel. In our Discord channel, a lot of people have many different types of diagonal type of ships that you can play with, like how we're doing right now, and see how they play out. And then test it out. Like everybody takes each one of their different diagonal ships and they build upon it. Now a lot of my previous videos I've explained a lot of different tips for different types of diagonal ships. One of the most recent one that I've worked on with is on school. If I can find it. I should probably just pull up the folder and actually go into it. So if I pull up the folder and come over this one right here. This is his latest version. So if I take his latest version, this one, and pull this one in. This is the most latest diagonal ship, which doesn't even really look like a diagonal ship, but this is the most recent cannon flanker that was working with Zonsko. And the main reason why this diagonal ship is powerful that people don't understand a lot of, for people that haven't watched my channel and seen it, is you see all this armor right here? Even though this larger shield doesn't cover it all the way, it gives it multiple lives for the larger shields, and it's all about targeting with AI. So you see right here the AI is targeting points farther away, but you want them to target the large shields. So depending on what Zonsko changed in the armor, because I'm a little concerned right here because it's firing on weapons instead of actually firing on armor, is you want it to fire on the armor and you want them to aim at the bigger, larger shields first. So you don't want to put too much armor, but you want to put just enough armor so that they're firing on the actual shield. See how this one's trying to target this large shield? Instead of firing upon weapons. So let me go here and take another different ship so that you can see the difference. So if I come back over here and I take this ship, if I can find it, armor ratio to everything else ratio, you want it so that they fire on this, but they don't fire on your weapons. Because if they fire on your weapons first, you just lost a whole bunch of damage. So you may want to look into this a little bit more. I'll think about it some more as I play around with it at a later time. But one of the tips when you're making diagonal ships, it's all about where you place your shields if you're going to use shields. Or if you're going to use armor, where you place your armor for your diagonal type of ships and how it plays into effect. You see how this larger shield went down, so it protected a little bit. Then this larger shield has another chance to get back up, and you see how it came back up, and now it's protecting again. So once it loses armor, you see, now it's protecting again. And then you have your smaller shields protecting your larger shield, so that it has another chance to go back up. So if your diagonal ships is all about survivability, as well as how much damage you can do. So a lot of ships that we've designed in our community, in our channel, and in our Discord where we communicate with each other, it's how you design these larger shields to protect, to give it that ability to actually withstand, and then live longer. And so those are just some of the few tips that we have for diagonal type of ships. And then obviously movement is important a lot as well. So when you're building a diagonal ship, make sure you have enough thrust to move backwards, sideways, and be able to side stripe. Because if you're, however you like to play the game, whether you like to do PvP or you like to do PvE type of gameplay, that is also important as well as movement. Movement is probably the most important thing in the game. Whether you're doing PvP or PvE, being able to move your ship around is an important key. So protection, movement, and then damage. Alright, let's come back over here and go back to showcasing again. Thanks for that question. So the next ship that we want to pull in is this one. I think we've already seen a version of it. Yeah, we've already seen this one. But we'll just showcase it again because he has it in there. So Butter has this ship, which we can already see has been heavily changed. The head armor is heavily changed at the beginning of this particular live stream. We changed that a bunch, pulled off, ripped off these chain guns. The chain guns are nice, but you can see right here, once they catch on fire, they can explode, and there's minimum amount of armor, so increasing the armor on the sides, which is another weak point, because you see right there, it's a chain reaction and everything just goes boom, and that's not what we like. We want to protect each section because there's a lot of ammo, and that's what I was just working on the other ships that I was collaborating back with Butter on that one. Now another ship that Butter has is this one, which he calls the Ghost number 2. Now this is a really nice diagonal type of ship. I'm liking that it has a huge amount of flanking of lasers. It's got a whole bunch of ions on it. It looks pretty. From a front to front face, this is, and it's got layers of large shields protecting. It's got 8 in the front, large shields, and then 8 more large shields in the back protecting its middle. It's a beautiful ship. For a full energy ship at 2.2 million, this is a nice energy ship. I don't see any projectiles on it, so there's nothing that consumes ammo. It's just full energy. So that's, I'm actually interested to see how this would perform if I were to face this actually against an in-game ship. Now I know its cost is huge, but what I want to see, which I think it will have a little even trouble with it, even though it costs a lot less, is if we come over here to built-in ships, we come over to Cabal. I don't know why I like the Polaris so much, but I do. I'm thinking these missiles, if they can reach from behind. Does he have any point defenses? He does have point defenses here. If any of these missiles can come from behind and land in the back, he has point defenses in the back there too. But I can just see that this one just lost that part. With the amount of missiles coming in. He has enough point defenses to guard this much, so it's going to actually stop all these missiles. So this is it has more point defenses than I thought. I like how he has point defenses here and point defenses here. So it can actually defend a bit. Yeah, interesting design. I like it. That is an interesting design there, Butter. Thank you so much for sharing. Alright, let's come over into the next ship that Butter has. We'll add in another ship. We'll come back over here to my ships. Go to March 2024. Let's pull in another one. Tuna 88. This looks like a crab or something. But I like its design. Now this one is obviously it can kite and do other different things. They're trying to stay at distances farther away, so I'm actually going to pull in a different ship. Another ship that I really like that I think someone's going to have to tell me who made this one, but I think it was Butter to design it because Butter usually uses this color, but I could be wrong. But this is one of his other ships that's also kind of like a kite too. This one has extreme speed backwards and extreme speed forward. And I guess this is not a fair reputation. They're not ever going to touch each other. This is why in the challenge of 1.1 million, we don't want kites so that they're not ever touching each other. So if your ship is not ever coming up to actually touch each other, that won't be a part of the official challenge. I am a native English speaker. Yes, Bernard Bobbles. Anyone play Star Sector? I think multiple people, Archdog, has reminded me or asked me about Star Sector. I haven't actually played Star Sector myself. This is not the game. This is just the battle tester to help people out to see the two different ships apart from each other. Playing the actual game is probably far more in-depth. I don't think I have any of these ships that's going to actually face it very well, so we'll just take one of these and face it first, that one. There. Now these ships are actually going to hopefully face each other. This one should go at a decent speed. This one's going to try to fly backwards because it's going to try to kite. And I think this kiting one will actually outpace this one. No matter how fast this guy's going to fly, this is why we were saying no kiting ships. As you can see, it's always going to stay far enough away. This ship will never catch up to the other ship. And so therefore it's just going to eventually rip it apart. Now this kind of gameplay is fun to play in the actual game, absolutely. The only downside is if you come over here and I were to do something like this, and I were to put something like this behind it, then you run into problems. Because in the game you're going to run into places where you can't go backwards anymore, right? And you'll get stuck. Now obviously it's too late for it to actually be there. But this is the only problem when you're flying with kite ships, is there can be obstacles behind you. Not necessarily such big obstacles, but I just wanted to represent that that's the only downside of a kite ship, is if you're flying backwards, you gotta look behind you at the same time while you're kiting other ships. Alright, let's clear all objects. Let's pull in another ship. So, the next ship we have... Is Butter the only one that submitted? Okay, I guess we have another ship from Butter. Another ship from Butter. Now this one, what I'm going to do here, just so we can see it because it's so dark and you can't see black on black very well. I'm going to come over here and we're going to paint it white. Just so we can see it. Now it's facing each other. This one's got a huge amount of ions. I'm liking this layer stacking of armor in the middle. Even though it's kind of... Oh, it has railguns too. There's not enough protection down the middle. You see the shields right here? So if you get a lucky shot right down the middle right there, and you somehow blow up these two. So I guess there is a flaw to his design right here, because this does not cover that middle. So I personally would move these shields at least another tile or two, so the shields overlap. That's the one downside I just saw of that one. Like if we were to take... a battleship, we go to Cabal, we go to Combat, we go to the Solrientis. This one right here reminds me of a ship like this. So this is an in-game ship. It's kind of got railguns in the back. It's got ion beams. It's huge tanky. When you encounter this game, when you and welcome, Mugsamoy, I can't. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. See, there's your downfall right there. Even though this ship costs so much more, the Solrientis still cut it in half. So Butter, whenever you see this, I highly recommend even though the ship looks super cool, you only really have 2 shields guarding the middle. All these other shields are not guarding everything, so they should move up so you have a layer stack in the middle, because if you don't, as you can see right here, the Sorrentus that cost a whole lot less, almost a million less, if it comes in here and if they actually change. Now obviously if he gets stuck this way, then the Sorrentus is not going to be able to do what it needs to do. But if it's a head-on shot, as we saw before, the Sorrentus can. If it doesn't come in at an angle and it shoots right down this middle right here, and then it takes out all of this, and then you lose. It's probably not the best place to put the command deck. But obviously you have tractor beams, so you can push and pull as needed. But you see right there, that shouldn't happen with a ship that costs $1 million less. It shouldn't be able to cut your ship in half from the front for any reason. So my recommendation is move those shields. Just get them to move the shields in. All right, come back over here. We'll come back over to March 3/24/2024. We'll pull on this last ship that we have. This last ship pulled in here is made by Butter as well. It's a Wall Kite MK1. Did you try to build ships with the new? Yes, we did that in last week. We showed some. I didn't build any ships. Other people have built some ships with the new thrusters. We'll showcase some of those as well. We showcased it as well in the patch, so I have another live stream that announced the patch for those thrusters, and then actually showcasing them a little bit. There's some downside to them, and there's some upside to them. This is I think this is still a work in progress, maybe. This is a very interesting ship. Because if he added a little bit more layers of armor or things around it, he could definitely be a pretty dangerous looking ship. I'm liking how he has ions. Now because Bernard Bobbles mentioned for the actual thrusters, let's go take a look at some of the older ships that we looked at, just so we have it in here. I don't know if it was in 316. Who's the one that built one? Maybe it was this one. No, not that one. When did we do that last? When did we do a session where he had the ship that I was looking at? It has those thrusters on it. I can't even remember. It's been a while, but we did look at ships that had them. I know Hosep had a bunch too. This one? No, that one doesn't have those boosters on it. Was it the jellyfish that had some? No. I know a ship was given to me, and I can't remember when we actually did it. But the new modular boosters, or at least the ones that I was playing with, maybe it was his work in progress, probably Spearhead 2.0. Here we go. So these new modular boosters that we have right here, they're nice to have with these fuel cells in it as well. But one of the biggest downsides that these things have, at least the Spearheads, at least the experiments that we're playing with, is the time it takes for them to go to their speeds. It definitely makes the ships go faster. And the other downside that for these as well is when you're building the ship and you look right here, because these thrusters with the modulars, burner bubbles, go so far, there's no way to cover it with armor. So you can't overlap it with armor. You can put huge long armor thrusters, so you can add like armor, like, right? You can add it next to it till you have armor that extends out. But the biggest problem when you do something like this is when you lose a part of the module of these thrusters, then you lose the whole thruster. So if I lose this module right here, it goes 480 plus speed, it loses the whole capability of being able to thrust. And so it's a huge downside. As far as upside for it to move faster, like if you put them on railguns or ships that are kiting and move faster backwards, definitely a benefit. It does take time for it to actually speed up, but once it reaches the speed that it needs to go at, it really goes at a decent, nice speed. I think this was in the whip folder. This is the 2.0 one, just so people can see it. So the speeds that it can go at are tremendous. But you see right here, see how slow it takes it to turn because it takes up all this extra space. But once it gets up, and then it takes a very long time for it to actually get to the speeds it needs to go at. So you see how it's slowly revving up, and then it consumes a lot of space, and then it also consumes a lot of actual fuel and energy. So it takes a lot of energy to actually fuel all these fuel cells for it to move. But its speeds that it can go at are huge and tremendous. So if we go back and we actually look at the live stream and take a look at these modules, there's a bunch of in-game ships, and I don't have the actual patch number in front of me right this second, but there's a bunch of built-in ships that they've already built with those modules in mind. I probably should go look for that patch build. I don't know if it was this one. I think it was Casa something, where they have the new booster modules. No, that's not it. I'm gonna look for them. Anybody have that patch build on hand? Looking. Maybe it's this one. I get the name of the ship. No, that's December 8th. That's too old. I'm looking for the latest patch build. 825. I don't have it. Alright. Sorry, I don't have it right this second. I don't remember the exact name of the ships, but they did do a live stream on the actual in-game ships where they actually had each one of the new thrusters on it. It kind of looked kind of like that. No, it wasn't the Hero, it wasn't Orion. Maybe it was a Sol Regis. Is it Sol Regis one? But they have a whole bunch of new ships already in the game that are built-in in-game ships. They have the modules here. This one right here. This one has these modules. This ship, the Sol Regis, see, look how fast it's going to go. It goes 91, 92. So those older ships, or ships that don't have a lot of thrust backwards. See, this ship has a decent amount of thrust backwards as the older design compared to this newer design ramming ship. The new ramming ships with these modules, as you can see right here, this ramming ship is eventually going to catch up to this ship, even though it's going back fast. The new modules allow for ships to ram the older ships, and you can have these ramming ships with these. So I'm actually interested to see if anybody's going to make a ramming ship kind of like this with the new modules in it to showcase them for people to see. So 1.1 million ship, a ramming ship with these new modules, as you can see right here, makes a deadly ramming ship. Yes, it can definitely fight against these kiting ships or these other ships that can kite, but to have a ship of this size with the extra modules, as you can see, it allows for these ramming ships to be more successful. Emancipators or branches from Thank you, R for Mensamai. We'll show them again for people that are just watching and actually coming in. These are great questions. So we guys, the man, I don't even know which one that's going to be in. Emancipation's not that one. I know Sir Regis is so Simon. Nope. Kingslayer then. Kingslayer. So Kingslayer is going to be a fringe one that came in. The Sol Regis for the other one. This one is going to, I don't know. He didn't tell me which faction. Seminaries. Okay. So this is an Imperial one. So these are the new ships that came out in the latest patch build. Each one should have the new modular thrusters in them. So you see this one? This is a missile boat that has these speed modulars on them, so it can go at really, really fast speeds. And this one right here has the super fast speeds for the nukes. So if I have a kiting ship, this ship right here, the Seminarius, or this one right here, can catch up to you with the new modules, because it has these extra modules to go at faster speeds. The downside to these modules, though, is it's easy to flank them and easy to take out the boosters. What I mean by easy to flank is you have to have more than one ship to flank because they have turning capability, right? So if I take the Seminaris and I come over here and I were to come and take, in March, do a work in progress. Let's take a bunch of these ships. Just even two of these. Run at each other. One ship is there to tank, another ship is there to get from behind. If if it can. And then once you actually can get to behind it, well, if you can, it all depends on the boosters. The nukes can do deadly damage, but see, once you get over behind, because there's no real way to add armor to the back, all you have to do is come from behind, have two different ships, flank it from behind, take out all its thrusters, and then it just becomes a dead ship because you don't have any more thrust. But obviously you have to control your ships and you have to design it to take out these thrusters. But if you're just doing a 1-to-1 ship, you can see it can still turn, it can still catch you, it's got super fast speed. These ships are very deadly with the new modules, so they're nice to have. Now the last ship that the R4 Massimi also put in there as well, I think is built-in ships. It's going to be a monolith ship, and the last one is probably the Emancipation. And the Emancipation, well, I can't even pronounce the name right. And then we come over here to Cabal Combat. Sol Regis. This one's a ramming ship. This one's also a ramming ship, as you can see right here, ramming ship with chain guns. So with the new modules, you see these ramming capabilities, it really makes ramming ships very powerful. It takes the time for them to rev up, as I showed before, but its weakness is definitely evident because you can't add armor to the back because there's no way to layer stack the armor, and you have to have free reign of space behind it. But yes, very nice ships, very nice improvement. I love what the developer's doing. I love how he's trying to balance out as best as he can and build out all these different new modules and new things for it. What I would love to see in the future, because I like energy weapons and I like to play with smaller ships, is heavy deck guns. I know you can add mods. I know they have mods for it already, but I wanted to see it actually in the official game where they have heavy deck guns or some kind of laser type of weapons that are deck cannon, not just these deck cannons. Obviously, we have to think of a way to balance it out for whatever reason. Maybe the size has to be huge. That's okay for me. But adding some more deck type of weapons would be very nice to have, I think, as an addition. Not just these deck cannons. So we're not always having to use something. Now, obviously, the downside to deck guns are the fact they have to use ammo. Ammo explodes. Every time the deck gun fires, you see these guys actually pause. You see they can't move anymore. So it has a lot of flaws, but it has a lot of benefits. So how he would balance out to put energy type of weapons in, I don't know. Will it ever come? I don't know either. Just me speculating, and something I'm wishing for in the future. But that's just my say, so we'll see what happens. If you enjoyed this content, thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. Please feel free to hit the like button. Helps me out a ton. Helps to push out this content to other people, bring awareness to it. If you like, please feel free to leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you like, tell me what you don't like, especially what you don't like so that I can improve and make better content. If you have not already, please feel free to subscribe. If you don't want to subscribe, that's okay as well. Come back once a week, once a month, check out what content I have. Thank you all for being here, thank you all for watching, and you all have a wonderful rest of your day.